Hey, what's up, Market Moose? Mike from the Moose on the Loose. Happy Tuesday. So, as expected, today we're going to take a look at Fortis versus Hydro One, the battle of the great utilities. I decided to select those two stocks mostly because one of my members at DSR asked me for it. And then last month during a private webinar, I did that comparison. But what I found very interesting here is you have like I would call it a young utility, even though Hydro One has been around for a long time, but has been public not too long ago, versus Fortis showing more than 50 consecutive years of dividend increases. So if there is there a good stock to buy here? Should you buy both or should you leave them altogether? This is what we're going to take a look at. So the way it works when I compare stocks is I will look at 6 different things. The first one is the business model. It's really important to understand what you're looking at first and understanding how the business makes money so you can compare them and determine if you can compare them apple to apple, right? The second thing is to look at the dividend triangle. Dividend triangle, super easy, is the trend for 3 important metrics: revenue growth, earnings per share growth, and dividend growth. Actually, it is the basis of the Rockstar list, where you can download the list for free at moosemarkets.com/rockstar. The Rockstar list will show you companies with positive revenue, earnings, and dividend growth over the past 5 years. So it's a great place to start if you're hunting for new stocks and if you're looking for thriving companies with high quality. So again, moosemarkets.com/rockstar. So that's number 2. Number 3, growth vectors. So you want to know how the company will continue to increase their sales, their earnings, and eventually their dividend, right? After that, number 4, potential risks. It's great to talk about the positive narrative, the fairy tale, and everything's going to be fine, but we all know that no companies are perfect, so you need to see the downsides as well. And it's a great way to compare because sometimes you're going to have like a specific risk for a company, even though it's the same sector as Fortis versus Hydro One. It will be a very good example. Number 5, the dividend safety and the dividend growth perspective. So then we're going to look at payout ratios, the dividend growth trend, and what could fuel future growth as well. And finally, we end up with valuation. As you know, I'm not a big fan of valuation, but I mean, if you have like 2 stocks that are like neck to neck for all the other points, well, number 6, when you look at the valuation, maybe you're going to get a better deal from one or the other. So that's probably where the money should be going, especially if you like both companies. So, all right, let's get started now. Fortis versus Hydro One for the business model. Well, the main difference here, of course, they're all utilities, electric transmission. So we're going to focus on the difference. Main difference is Fortis diversification. They are present in Canada, in the US, and on the islands as well. So a little bit more diversification in terms of like the economy. So if it's going well in the US, well, they're going to still be able to grow there, while Hydro One is only focused on Ontario. So it's great because it is a very strong province in Canada. They focus on hydroelectricity, which is renewable. It's definitely something that the government wants to support. So there's a lot of positive around it, but only focused in Ontario. Now, if you look at the dividend triangle for both companies, we have something that is quite similar. Both companies find ways to grow their business, they grow their dividends. So from that part, very hard to differentiate one versus the other. One thing though is Fortis has a much longer history. But besides that, 2 dividend triangles that are looking very strong. So, and this is what you want as an investor. You want thriving businesses. So again, you can download the Rockstar list at moosemarkets.com/rockstar. Now, if you look at the growth vectors, well, probably have a little bit more growth expectations from Fortis. The thing is, Fortis can grow with the classic playbook for utilities. They increase their capital expenditure, so they invest more in their assets. Then they go see the regulator. They ask for a rate increase, and this is how they can increase their revenue and therefore their earnings. So it's really a game, classic game. Both companies can do that. So it's the most common way for a utility company to grow earnings and eventually grow their dividend. However, Fortis also grows by acquisition and can expand because they have foot in several provinces and several states, which enables them to grow a bit faster if they would like to. When you look at Hydro One, that is one thing I don't like that much. They do have a very solid playbook to grow their capex and go see the government of Ontario and ask for a rate increase. So that's great and it's going to work great, but they're still limited to Ontario. So on one side, very stable. On the other, I don't like a company that is dependent on one province. Now, moving on to potential risks, we do have classic risk for utilities. The main one is, of course, interest rates and the debt, like the balance sheet. Utility companies, they are capital intensive. It requires billions to run them, to maintain the assets, and they are also required to invest billions into new projects. So that's a classic. Make sure that you see that the debt is under control, interest charges are not too high, interest rates are good. That is one. Another one is, of course, if there's an economic slowdown, less need for energy, they're going to take a hit. Where the difference is really in terms of the geographic exposure. So Hydro One is more limited by Ontario, but also the government of Ontario is the major shareholder. So there's kind of like a political aspect as well on this one, versus this is something that you do not have with Fortis. So a little bit of difference here in terms of potential risk as well. In terms of dividend safety and dividend growth now, well, they are both stellar. So we see companies with low payout ratios, constant mid-single digit dividend increases. It keeps on going up, very strong. Not much to say here. The only difference is really the longevity of the dividend increases done by Fortis. The company has demonstrated that they are able to go through anything. Recession, crisis, name it. They've seen it all. For Hydro One, we don't have that track record, but so far, very, very strong in terms of dividend safety and dividend growth. So not much of a, very hard to decide if you go for Fortis or Hydro One with this point. Finally, when you look at the valuation, what I do for valuation is I look at the current PE ratio and I look at the past 5 years average. I do the same thing for the yield. The rationality behind that is quite simple. The market usually pays the same multiple over time for a company unless the narrative changes. And same thing for the yield. Most of the time, the business will pay about the same yield because as earnings grow, the dividend will grow, but the stock price will rise accordingly and therefore maintaining the stock around the same yield. Now, those are like two good guidelines to see if one is better than the other. In that regard, Fortis looks a little bit cheaper than Hydro One, but not too much to move the needle. So now we have to make a conclusion, right? So do we go for Fortis? Do we go for Hydro One? Do we invest in both? That is also a possibility. Because here's the thing. As you can see here, we have two companies that are very solid, very stable, generate cash flow, increase their dividend. So they tick pretty much all the boxes. The reason why I would consider to add both in my portfolio is quite simple. Both companies are, yes, in the same sector, but are still differences. I like the hydroelectricity from Hydro One. I like the fact that they benefit from a strong position in Ontario. And on the other side, I really like that Fortis is more diversified and show a very long track record of dividend increases. Having both in my portfolio, not the end of the world. And full disclaimer, I only have Fortis at the time of recording. Not about to buy Hydro One, but I do like this one too. So I love the fact that I could have two utilities that are a little bit more complementary, but yes, they would face classic problems such as if we have higher interest rates or if there's a problem with regulations or if there's slow economic growth, it's going to affect both companies the same way. But I could see those two in my portfolio without creating a problem of overlapping too much. And this is the key. The point here is you don't want to overlap too much. So if I have Fortis and Hydro One, I would probably not go for like Capital Power or Canadian Utilities because then I would just add up more of the same. But two companies that are a bit similar but still have differences, Well, I don't see that as a problem. So, all right, Moose, I hope that you have enjoyed this one and that it helps you getting a good framework to compare two companies. In this case, was an easy one. Two great companies, so you can go for Fortis, you can go for Hydro One, you can go for both. Personally, I like them. So again, it's not financial advice. You need to do a little bit more digging before you press the buy button. We're gonna talk again tomorrow, but until then, don't forget to stay invested.